Ladies and gentlemen, our watchman is sleeping again. Who knows what he does when others are sleeping? Maybe he's into secret society. Our hardworking accountant. I heard he has infected his wife.
I heard the woman is not even his real wife. Maybe she's somebody he's hiding.
You just watched a man be mocked at work because he fell asleep for a few seconds. His colleagues called him lazy. They laughed at him and judged him without knowing the painful battles he fought every single night. But what they thought was weakness was actually the greatest sacrifice of his life. Let's go back in time. Mike and Kelechi had been friends since childhood. They grew up on the same street in Aba, attended the same primary and secondary schools, graduated from university together, and celebrated every achievement side by side. People often called them brothers because they were almost never seen apart. When both of them were employed by Opara Continental Logistics, they believed nothing would ever come between them. Life became even sweeter when Mike married the love of his life, Mira. Before long, God blessed them with two wonderful sons, Sammy and little Elvis. Their small home was always filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and dreams for the future. At work, Mike's honesty, dedication, and calm leadership quickly caught management's attention. Within a few years, he received a promotion that surprised many employees. Kelechi congratulated him with a smile. "My brother, you deserve it," he said as they shook hands. Mike smiled back. "Your own promotion will come soon. We'll keep growing together." But while Mike saw encouragement, something else quietly settled inside Kelechi's heart. Each success Mike celebrated reminded him of everything he believed should have been his. Still, he hid those feelings behind friendly smiles and warm laughter. Then, without warning, life took a turn no one saw coming. Mira fell seriously ill. Kelechi started telling people that Mike was involved in something dangerous at night. Some believed Mike was drinking. Others said he was gambling. One woman claimed he had joined a secret society. Mike started arriving late, sleeping at his desk, and disappearing during lunch breaks. On 2 occasions, money had gone missing from the company's accounts shortly after he worked on the records. Every weekday, Mike's day began at 4 o'clock in the morning. The alarm would ring once. He would quickly stop it before it woke Mira, then he would sit beside her and listen to her breathing. Some mornings, her breath came gently. Other mornings, it sounded as though every breath was fighting to escape her body. That Tuesday morning, Mike touched her forehead. "Mira?" She opened her eyes slowly. "You should be sleeping," she whispered. Mike forced a smile. "So should you." "I slept." "You were in pain throughout the night." Mira turned her face away. "It was only small pain." Mike looked at the bowl beside the bed. She had vomited twice during the night. The white of her eyes were becoming yellow. Her fingers trembled, but she still tried to smile. "Go and prepare the children," she said. "They will be late." Mike covered her properly. "I will bring your medicine." Before leaving the room, he looked back. Mira was watching him. Neither of them said what they were thinking. The hospital had given them 14 days to pay for the next stage of her treatment. The amount was 4.8 million naira. Mike had less than 300,000 naira left. In the next room, Sammy was already awake. The 9-year-old boy was helping Elvis button his school shirt. "Daddy, Elvis has lost one sock again." "I did not lose it," Elvis protested. "It ran away." "Socks do not run away," Sammy said. "This one did." Mike searched beneath the bed and found it inside a toy truck. He raised it. "See the running sock." Elvis laughed. For a few seconds, their small flat felt normal. Then a loud sound came from the bedroom. A metal cup had fallen. Mike rushed back. Mira was trying to stand. He held her quickly. "I told you to call me." "I wanted to use the bathroom." "You cannot walk alone." Her eyes filled with tears. "I am becoming useless." Mike held her face gently. "Never say that again." "Mike, you cook, you clean, you prepare the children, you take them to school, you work all day, then you return and look after me. And you are disappearing." Mike stared at her. She touched the dark circles beneath her eyes. I can see it. He smiled sadly. I am still here. But both of them knew that was not true. A part of Mike was slowly breaking. After bathing Mira, preparing breakfast, packing the children's lunch, and giving her wife her medicine, Mike drove Sammy and Elvis to school in an old blue Corolla that made a disturbing sound whenever he changed gear. At the school gate, Sammy refused to get down. What is it? Mike asked. Daddy, will Mommy die? Mike froze. Elvis stopped smiling. Who told you that? Nobody. Then why are you asking? Sammy looked down. I heard you crying in the kitchen last night. Mike swallowed. He looked at both boys. Your mommy is sick, but the doctors are helping her. Will she die? Sammy repeated. Mike could not lie easily, so he placed his hand on Sammy's shoulder. As long as I am breathing, I will do everything possible to keep her with us. Sammy nodded, but his eyes remained afraid. Mike watched them enter the school. Then he checked the time. He was already late. Again. When Mike entered Opara Continental Logistics at 9:17 a.m., several employees looked up. Kelechi checked his wristwatch dramatically. Good morning, night watchman. Laughter spread across the office. Mike ignored him. Another colleague covered her mouth and yawned. Mike, should we bring you a mattress? More laughter. Mike sat at his desk and switched on his computer. Sandra stepped out of her office. Mike! He stood immediately. Yes, ma. My office. The laughter stopped. Inside, Sandra closed the door. This is your 5th late arrival this month. I am sorry. You slept during the budget meeting yesterday. Mike lowered his head. I am sorry. You entered 3 supplier payments twice last week. I corrected them. After Kelechi noticed, Mike said nothing. Sandra folded her arms. I once was your most reliable officer, and now I do not know what is happening to you. It is a family matter. What family matter? Mike hesitated. He did not want pity. He did not want his wife's illness to become office gossip. I am handling it. Sandra shook her head. You are not handling it, you are bringing it here. Mike took a slow breath. Please, give me a little time. You have until the end of this week. One more serious mistake, and I will recommend your suspension. Mike nodded. As he turned to leave, Sandra spoke again. And Mike, he looked back. The company is investigating missing funds. Mike's expression changed. What missing funds? 18 million naira has disappeared through false transport claims. I did not know. You approved 4 of the affected entries. Mike stared at her. That is impossible. The approvals carry your password. Mike's heartbeat increased. I did not authorize any false claims. Sandra studied his face. Then you should start remembering who has access to your computer. Outside the office, Kelechi smiled at him. What did Madame say? Mike walked past. Kelechi followed. Relax, I am only asking. Mike stopped. Have you ever used my computer? Kelechi laughed. Why would I use your computer? You sit beside me. So? Mike stared at him. Kelechi's smile slowly disappeared. My brother, do not bring your home frustration to me. Then he leaned closer. You should be more worried about sleeping on company property. One day, somebody may use your finger to approve something while you are snoring. He walked away. Mike watched him carefully. The words sounded like a joke, but they did not feel like one. That evening, Mike did not go directly home. He drove to a warehouse near Ariaria Market. Inside, men were unloading cartons from a trailer. The supervisor looked at him. You are late. I came from work. That is not my problem. Mike removed his office shirt and put on an old t-shirt. For the next 5 hours, he carried cartons, counted stock, and loaded delivery vans. At midnight, the supervisor handed him 18,000 naira. Mike counted the money. Sir, you said 25,000 naira. You broke 2 cartons. I did not break anything. Do you want the money or not? Mike looked at the men around him. Nobody spoke. He took the 18,000 naira. His back was aching. His palms had fresh blisters. But the night was not over. From the warehouse, he drove to a bakery where he helped distribute bread before dawn. At 3:35 a.m., he returned home. He quietly entered the bedroom. Mira was awake. "You went out again," she said. Mike stopped. "I told you I had office work." "Office work does not leave cement dust on your trousers." He looked down. Mira began crying. "Why are you doing this?" "You know why. Sell the car. It is worth almost nothing. Borrow from people." "I have borrowed." "Tell your company." "And say what? That my wife is dying, so they should contribute money?" Mira wiped her tears. "I do not want you to die before me." Mike sat beside her. "You are not going anywhere." "The doctor said my liver is failing." "The doctor also said treatment can help." "Treatment we cannot afford." Mike held her hand. "I will find the money." "How?" He looked into her eyes. "I do not know yet." That answer frightened her more than anything else. 2 days later, Mike fell asleep at his desk. This time, Kelechi did not wake him. He quietly brought out his phone and began recording. "Ladies and gentlemen," he whispered, "our hard-working accountant." Some workers laughed. One woman placed a file near Mike's face and pretended it was a pillow. Another took a selfie. Kelechi posted the video in the staff WhatsApp group. Within minutes, comments appeared. "Sleeping beauty. Maybe his night job pays better. Check his mouth, he may be drunk. This one will soon steal company money and run." Sandra saw the video during a meeting. She returned to the office angrily. "What is going on here?" Everyone moved away. Mike woke suddenly. His eyes were red. Sandra looked from him to Kelechi. "Who recorded this?" Nobody answered. She turned to Mike. "Come with me." As Mike stood, his phone fell from the table. The screen lit up. A message appeared. "Pay 700,000 naira before Friday or her treatment will stop." Sandra saw it. So did Kelechi. Mike quickly picked up the phone. Kelechi whistled. "Treatment?" Mike faced him. "Mind your business." Kelechi raised both hands. "I did not say anything." But before the day ended, almost everyone knew Mike's wife was sick. By evening, the story had changed. Some said she had HIV. Some said Mike had infected her. Others claimed the hospital bill was fake and Mike was preparing to beg the company for money. The cruelest version came from Kelechi. "I heard the woman is not even his real wife," he told 2 employees. "Maybe she is somebody he is hiding." Unfortunately, Elvis would soon say something that made the rumor sound true. The next morning, Elvis's teacher called Mike. "Mr. Nwosu, your son said his mother is being kept in a secret place." Mike's grip tightened around the phone. "What?" "He said strange men come to take her blood at night." Mike looked towards the bedroom. Mira was sleeping. "Where did he hear that?" "He said he saw them himself." Mike ended the call and went directly to Elvis. The boy was arranging pencils inside his bag. "Elvis." "Yes, Daddy?" "What did you tell your teacher?" Elvis became nervous. "Nothing." "You said strange men take mommy's blood." The boy looked towards the bedroom. "Daddy, they do." Mike crouched. "What men?" "The men from the new hospital." "What new hospital?" "The place Uncle Kelechi took mommy." Mike stopped breathing for a moment. "Did Kelechi take your mother somewhere?" Elvis nodded. "The day you went to buy medicine." Mike stood slowly. "When?" "Last Saturday." "Why did nobody tell me?" "Mommy said it was a surprise." Mike entered the bedroom. "Mira." She opened her eyes. "Did Kelechi take you to another clinic?" Her face changed. "Who told you?" "So it is true." "Mike, calm down." "Where did he take you?" She tried to sit up. "He said he knew people who could reduce the treatment cost." "What people?" "A private medical foundation." "What is the name?" "I do not remember." Mike stared at her. You entered a hospital whose name you do not remember? I was desperate. Her voice broke. They said they could place me on a subsidized treatment program. They ran tests and gave me injections. What injections? I do not know. Mike turned towards the door. Where are you going? To ask Kelechi. Mira grabbed his hand. Please do not fight him. He was trying to help. Mike looked at her yellow eyes. What did those people collect from you? She hesitated. Blood. How much? I do not know. Mira? She began crying. They said it was for advanced testing. Mike felt cold. For the first time, he wondered whether his wife's illness was the only danger inside his home. At work, Mike confronted Kelechi in the car park. You took my wife to a clinic. Kelechi looked surprised. She told you? My son told me. Kelechi sighed. You should be thanking me. What is the name of the place? Hope Renewal Center. Where? Near Umoala Road. Who owns it? A foundation. What did they inject into her? Kelechi frowned. How would I know? Am I a doctor? Why did you not tell me? Because Mira begged me not to. Mike stepped closer. Why would my wife call you instead of me? Kelechi's expression hardened. Because you are not available. The word struck Mike. Kelechi continued. You are always running from one job to another. Your wife needed help. I gave it. Do not ever take her anywhere again. Kelechi laughed. Are you warning the person trying to save her? I said stay away from my family. Kelechi looked around and lowered his voice. You should focus on saving your job. Sandra has evidence that your password approved another 12 million naira last night. Mike froze. I was not here last night? Exactly. Kelechi smiled and walked away. Mike stood alone. Another false transaction had been approved with his details. Someone was setting him up. And the same person might be connected to Mira's secret treatment. That evening, Mike followed Kelechi. He watched him drive past Ogbo Hill, turn into a narrow road and stop beside an unfinished 3-story building. The ground floor had tinted windows. A small sign read, Hope Renewal Medical Outreach. Mike parked far away. Kelechi entered through a side gate. 10 minutes later, a black bus arrived. Weak-looking patients were helped out. Most were women. Some carried hospital files. Mike took pictures. Then he saw someone he recognized. Dr. Adaura. She was Mira's doctor at St. Matthew's Specialist Hospital. Mike moved closer. Through a gap in the fence, he heard voices. We cannot continue taking this quantity, Dr. Adaura said. A male voice replied. The buyers have increased their order. These patients are weak. They signed the forms. They do not understand the forms. Doctor, you have already collected your money. Mike's stomach tightened. What buyers? What quantity? Then Kelechi spoke. My patient is becoming suspicious. Dr. Adaura answered. Mira should not return. Her blood count is too low. Kelechi sounded angry. We have not completed the final collection. She may die. There was silence. Mike stepped backward in shock. His shoe crushed an empty bottle. The sound echoed. Who is there? Someone shouted. Mike ran. 2 men rushed through the gate. He entered his car and started the engine. One of the men struck the window. Mike reversed violently and sped away. His hands shook on the steering wheel. His wife was not receiving subsidized treatment. Somebody was using her. But for what? That night, Mike told Mira everything. She stared at him in disbelief. No, I heard them. Kelechi cannot do that. I heard his voice. He grew up with us. So did Judas grow up around people he betrayed. Mike, they are taking something from you. Blood for tests. Not for tests. Mira covered her mouth. Mike knelt before her. How many times have you gone there? She began counting silently. 4. His eyes widened. 4? They gave us 50,000 naira after each visit. You collected money? It was transport support. Mike stood up. They bought your blood. No, they bought something. Mira's breathing became fast. I was only trying to help you. By hiding this from me, you were killing yourself. And you thought allowing strangers to drain your body was better? Sammy appeared at the door. Stop shouting at Mommy. Mike turned. The boy's eyes were wet. Elvis stood behind him. Mike immediately softened. Go back to bed. No, Sammy said. Everybody keeps lying. Mira began crying. Sammy faced his father. You said Mommy would be fine. I said I would do everything possible. You are always sleeping. Mommy is always crying. Uncle Kelechi comes when you are not here. Now everybody is shouting. Mike stared at him. What do you mean Kelechi comes? Sammy's voice trembled. Uncle Kelechi said he would take care of us when you go to prison. The room became silent. Mike slowly faced Mira. She shook her head. I did not know he said that. When did he say it? Sammy answered. Yesterday. He said Daddy stole money from his office. Mike clenched his jaw. Now the plan was clear. Kelechi was not merely jealous. He was preparing to remove Mike completely. But Mike still did not know why. The next morning, security officers were waiting for Mike at work. Sandra stood beside them. Mike, surrender your laptop and identity card. Why? Another 24 million naira was transferred last night. I was at home. The system records show your approval. My password has been compromised. Your fingerprint was also used. Mike stared at her. That is impossible. Sandra gave him a printed page. The access log showed his fingerprint verification at 2:13 p.m. the previous day. At that time, Mike had fallen asleep at his desk. He remembered Kelechi's joke. One day, somebody may use your finger to approve something while you are snoring. Mike looked across the office. Kelechi stood near the photocopier. He did not smile. Sandra spoke quietly. Chief O'Connor is coming from Abuja tomorrow. Until then, you are suspended. Check the camera recordings. We did. And the camera facing your desk stopped working for 14 minutes. Mike laughed bitterly. Convenient. Do you have proof that somebody framed you? Not yet. Then leave the premises.
As Mike walked out, some employees avoided his eyes. Others whispered. Kelechi followed him to the gate. I am sorry, my brother. Mike turned. Do not call me your brother. Kelechi lowered his voice. You should run. Why? Because when Chief Opara arrives, this matter will become police business. Mike stared at him. Are you afraid I will discover something before tomorrow? Kelechi's eyes changed. Be careful, Mike. A sick wife and 2 young children need a father who is alive. Mike stepped closer. Was that a threat? Kelechi smiled. It was advice. Mike drove straight to Hope Renewal Center. The gate was locked. The signboard had been removed. The rooms were empty. Documents had been burned behind the building. As he searched through the ashes, someone whispered behind him, Please leave before they see you. Mike turned. A young nurse stood near the fence. It was Nurse Blessing. Mike said, You work here. She looked around nervously. Not anymore. What were they doing to my wife? Blessing's eyes filled with tears. They told us it was research. What research? They collected plasma from patients with rare medical conditions. For what? I do not know everything, but foreign laboratories paid them. Mike felt sick. My wife has liver failure. They targeted patients who were desperate and poor. They offered free tests and transport money. Did the collection make her condition worse? Blessing did not answer. Mike grabbed the fence. Tell me. Yes. The word crushed him. How much worse? She needs urgent treatment. Mike struggled to breathe. Who is behind it? Blessing looked towards the road. Dr. Adaora knows, but she's not the main person. Kelechi? He recruits patients. Why my wife? Blessing looked at him strangely. Your wife was not selected by accident. What does that mean?
Before she could answer, a motorcycle approached. Blessing quickly pushed a flash drive into Mike's hand. Everything I copied is there. What is inside? Patient records, payments, names. The motorcycle slowed. Blessing ran through a narrow path. Mike entered his car. As he drove away, the motorcycle followed him. He turned onto Aba Owerri Road. The rider increased speed. He took another turn. The motorcycle remained behind him. Then a black SUV appeared ahead and blocked the road. Mike hit the brakes. 2 men stepped out. He reversed. The motorcycle blocked him from behind. One of the men approached his window. "Give us what the nurse gave you." Mike locked the doors. The man struck the glass. Mike looked around desperately. Then he saw a narrow drainage crossing. He turned the steering wheel and drove onto the muddy shoulder. The Corolla bounced violently, scraped the SUV, and escaped through the gap. A side mirror broke off, but Mike did not stop. He drove until the SUV disappeared. Only then did he realize that the flash drive was gone. His pocket was empty. He searched the car. Nothing. He had lost the only evidence. Or so he thought. At home, Elvis ran towards him. "Daddy, your small black thing fell from your pocket." Mike froze. "What small black thing?" Elvis held up the flash drive. "I saw it before you left." Mike grabbed him and kissed his forehead. "You have just saved your mother." But after opening the files, Mike discovered something even more shocking. The medical fraud was linked to Ogbara Continental Logistics. Company vehicles were being used to transport blood samples out of Aba. The missing millions were not simply being stolen, they were being used to fund the illegal operation. And every false transaction carried Mike's approval. Someone wanted the crime to end with him.
The following morning, Chief Raymond Opara arrived at the company. All senior workers gathered inside the conference hall. Mike was brought in by 2 police officers. Sandra sat beside the company lawyer. Kelechi wore a dark suit and looked calm. Chief Opara opened a file. "Mr. Mike Nwosu, 54 million naira has disappeared through accounts approved with your credentials." Mike stood quietly. Chief Opara continued. "Company vehicles connected to those payments were also used for unauthorized night deliveries." Mike looked at Kelechi. Kelechi avoided his eyes. Chief Opara leaned forward. "Do you have anything to say?" "Yes, sir." "Speak." "The money was used to finance an illegal medical operation." Murmurs filled the room. The company lawyer frowned. "Do you have evidence?" Mike brought out the flash drive. Kelechi's expression changed for the first time. Mike handed it to Sandra. She connected it to the projector. Folders appeared on the screen. Patient names, payment records, vehicle numbers, foreign laboratory invoices, pictures of blood bags. Sandra opened a video. Dr. Adaora appeared on the screen arguing with an unseen man. "These patients may die," she said. A voice replied, "Then recruit healthier ones." Mike looked around the room. That operation used this company's vehicles. Chief Opara's face hardened. "Who authorized it?" Mike pointed towards Kelechi. "He recruited my wife." Everyone turned. Kelechi stood. "This is madness." Mike continued. "He used my fingerprint while I slept. He stole my password. He posted videos of me sleeping so everyone would believe I was irresponsible." Kelechi laughed. "Where is your proof that I touched your computer?" Mike looked at Sandra. The camera was disabled for 14 minutes, but the glass wall opposite my desk reflected everything. Sandra's eyes widened. She called the IT officer. "Bring the full camera footage." The footage was displayed. The direct camera had gone black, but another camera showed the reflection from a framed company award. The image was unclear, but a man could be seen lifting Mike's hand and pressing his finger at a small device. The man wore a distinctive silver bracelet. Everyone looked at Kelechi's wrist. He was wearing the same bracelet. Kelechi quickly removed it. Police officers moved towards him, but Chief Opara raised his hand. "Wait." He stared at the screen again. "Who gave Kelechi access to our vehicles?" Nobody answered. Mike opened another document. One name appeared repeatedly under authorization codes. R. Opara.
The room became silent. Chief Opara slowly stood. What is this? The lawyer looked frightened. Mike turned toward him. Those are your initials, sir. Chief Opara's voice rose. Are you accusing me? No. Mike selected another file. A scanned passport appeared. The name was Raymond Jr. Opara, the company's only son, the company's overseas director. Chief Opara stepped back. My son? Mike nodded. He created the network. Kelechi managed recruitment and false payments in Aba. Kelechi suddenly laughed. Everyone faced him. You people think Chief Opara did not know? Chief Opara rushed toward him. What did you say? Kelechi's eyes burned with anger. Your son used your name, your vehicles, and your company account for 2 years. Do you expect us to believe you noticed nothing? Chief Opara slapped him. Kelechi staggered. Police officers held both men apart. Then the conference door opened. Dr. Adaora entered with 2 investigators. Behind her was Nurse Blessing. Dr. Adaora looked broken. I am ready to testify, she said. The room erupted. Sandra stared at her. Who is the real leader? Dr. Adaora looked at Chief Opara. His son started it. Chief Opara covered his face. But someone inside Aba expanded it, she continued. She turned slowly, not towards Kelechi, towards Sandra. Mike's eyes widened. Sandra remained seated. Chief Opara whispered, Sandra? Dr. Adaora nodded. She approved the vehicles. She selected which internal accounts to use. Kelechi recruited the patients. Sandra stood calmly. This woman is lying. Nurse Blessing spoke. No, ma, I saw you at the center. Sandra's face became cold. Mike finally understood. Sandra had known too much about the missing transactions. She had repeatedly put him under pressure. She had controlled the investigation. She had even made sure the main camera near his desk was disconnected. Kelechi was guilty, but he was not the mastermind. Sandra turned towards the exit. A police officer blocked her. She reached into her bag. Gone, someone shouted. The room scattered. Sandra pulled out a small pistol and grabbed Sammy, who had just entered the conference hall with a security worker. Mike's heart stopped. Sammy? The boy had come because Mira had been rushed to the hospital and the school could not reach Mike. Sandra pressed the weapon against Sammy's head. Nobody move. Mike raised his hands. Please, he's a child. You should have remained asleep, Sandra said. Sammy trembled. Daddy, Daddy. Mike's eyes filled with tears. Look at me, son. Do not move. Sandra backed towards the exit. Give me the flash drive. Mike removed it from the laptop. Take it. Just release him. Give it. He walked slowly towards her. As he came closer, Sammy dropped his weight. Sandra lost balance. Her heel caught the cable. The gun moved away from his head. Mike rushed forward. A shot exploded. Workers screamed. Mike fell. Blood spread across his shirt. Sandra was arrested immediately. Sammy crawled towards his father. Daddy! Daddy! Mike touched his boy's face. Are you hurt? Sammy shook his head and cried. Mike looked down. The bullet had only grazed his chest. The blood looked worse than the wound. But before relief could settle, Mike's phone rang. It was Mira's hospital. She had disappeared.
Mike refused to remain at the hospital. With his wound bandaged, he rushed to St. Matthew's Specialist Hospital. Dr. Adara joined him. They found Mira's room empty. The bedsheet was stained. Her medication remained untouched. A nurse said 2 men had moved her for emergency testing. Mike grabbed the nurse's shoulder. Where did they take her? She does not know. Dr. Adaura checked the digital records. A transport request had been entered 10 minutes earlier. Destination: Old Aba Airstrip Storage Facility. Kelechi had escaped during the confusion in the conference room. He was taking Mira, not because he wanted to save the operation, because Mira was the final proof against him. Mike, police officers, and Dr. Adara raced towards the old facility. Inside a dark warehouse, Kelechi stood beside an ambulance. Mira lay unconscious on a stretcher. A cooler containing blood samples was being loaded. Mike shouted, "Kelechi!" Kelechi turned. His clothes were dirty. His face looked desperate. "You should have stayed out of this. She trusted you." She trusted everybody except the man who was never home. Mike moved closer. "I was working to save her, and I was there when she needed someone." Mike stopped.
Kelechi's voice broke. You always had everything. In school, teachers praised you. Mira chose you. Even when we joined the company, people trusted you more. This was about jealousy. This was about being invisible. You nearly killed my wife because you were jealous of me? Kelechi pointed towards the ambulance. I did not plan for her to become this weak. You took her blood 4 times. I needed money. For what? Kelechi's eyes filled with tears. For my daughter. Mike froze. I have a daughter in Port Harcourt. She was born with a heart condition. Her mother left me with her. I needed money for surgery. For a painful moment, Mike saw another desperate father standing before him. But then he looked at Mira. You destroyed other families to save yours? Kelechi lowered his head. I kept telling myself it was temporary. You framed me. Because Sandra said one person had to carry everything if we were exposed. And you chose me. You were already sleeping at work. Everyone believed the worst. Mike's voice became quiet. You knew why I was tired. Yes, you ate in my house. Kelechi began to cry. I am sorry. A siren sounded outside. Kelechi panicked and pulled out a knife. Do not come closer. Mira suddenly opened her eyes. Kelechi? He looked at her. She whispered weakly, your daughter will one day ask how you saved her. His hand trembled. Mira continued. What will you tell her? Kelechi broke down. The knife fell from his hand. Police officers entered and arrested him. Mike rushed to Mira. She touched the bandage on his chest. You are bleeding. He laughed through tears. So are you. He held her hand as the ambulance carried them away. But Mira's condition had become critical. She needed an urgent liver transplant, and time was running out.
The investigation brought down a large medical trafficking network. Sandra, Kelechi, and Raymond Jr. Opara and several others were charged. Chief Opara publicly accepted responsibility for failing to monitor what was happening inside his company. But Mike did not receive a magical promotion or sudden wealth. Instead, something more believable happened. The workers who once mocked him began a fundraising campaign. Sandra's assistant donated first. Then drivers, cleaners, accountants, and market traders joined. The video of Mike being mocked was replaced by another video. This one showed Sammy speaking beside his mother's hospital bed. My daddy was not sleeping because he was lazy. He was tired because he was carrying all of us. The video spread across Aba, then across Nigeria. Within 5 days, enough money was raised for Mira's surgery. Chief Opara covered the remaining medical expenses and created an independent welfare program for employees. Months later, Mira returned home. She was thinner, she walked slowly, but she was alive. On her first evening back, Mike prepared soup, while Elvis scattered toys across the parlor. Sammy helped his mother sit down. Mira watched Mike from the doorway. You are still doing everything, she said. Mike smiled. Not everything. He raised an eyebrow. What are you not doing? He pointed at the pot. You will wash it. She laughed for the first time in many months. The sound filled the house. Mike stopped staring and looked at her. He had nearly forgotten what her laughter sounded like. Later, Okbara Continental Logistics offered Mike the position of internal compliance supervisor because of his courage and knowledge of the fraud system. He accepted on one condition. The company would create emergency medical leave and confidential support for workers facing family crisis. He said, no employee should be destroyed because they are ashamed to explain their pain. Chief Okbara agreed. Kelechi eventually was sentenced for his crimes. Before he was taken away, Mike visited him. Kelechi sat behind a glass partition. You came to laugh at me? He asked. Mike shook his head. I came to tell you that your daughter's surgery was successful.
Kelechi stared at him. What? The workers contributed. Mira insisted. Tears filled Kelechi's eyes. After what I did? Mike nodded. Your daughter did nothing to us. Kelechi covered his face and wept. I am sorry. Mike looked at him quietly. I forgive you, but forgiveness will not cancel justice. Kelechi nodded. I understand. Mike stood to leave. Mike, he stopped. Kelechi wiped his tears. Why did you help my daughter? Mike answered without turning around. Because pain should not turn every man into the person who hurt him. He walked away. 1 year later, Mike stood beside Mira at Sammy and Elvis's school ceremony. Elvis received an award for kindness. Sammy received one for bravery. As the children ran towards them, Mira rested her head on Mike's shoulder. You kept your promise, she said. What promise? You said you would do everything possible to keep me with you. Mike held her hand. I almost failed. No, she replied. You almost died trying. Mike looked at his children, then he looked at the woman beside him. For months, people had seen him sleeping and concluded that he was lazy. Nobody saw the meals he cooked before sunrise. Nobody saw the school uniforms he ironed. Nobody saw him carrying cartons until midnight. Nobody heard the prayers he whispered beside his wife. They judged the few minutes his eyes closed. They never asked what kept him awake. And that became the lesson everyone in the company remembered. A person may look careless while secretly carrying a burden that would break those mocking him. Jealousy can turn friendship into a weapon. Desperation can explain a person's actions, but it cannot excuse evil. Forgiveness can heal the heart, but justice must still protect the innocent. And before laughing at someone's weakness, people should first ask what battle kept that person awake all night. Because sometimes the person sleeping in front of everyone is the only person in the room who has never truly rested.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to comment, like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Your support helps us bring you more powerful, emotional, and unforgettable African stories. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. We bring you fresh and exciting stories every week. Thank you once again for being part of this amazing family. Until our next story, stay safe, stay kind, and God bless you.